I'm Levi Eddie Aluede, and I'm a screenwriter and film director and journalist, and other things I'm sure too. What attracted me to filmmaking? I guess it's the idea that, you could dream of something, and the only way you could have the dream be realized is if you made it into a film, because it's the only place where you can create sound and images and a physical space for someone to experience. And I think that it's just such a lovely myriad of all the other arts and cultures of photography and acting and drama and writing all mushed into one thing, which is just a film. That's why I wanted to do that. What is a director's role on set? I think that it's a director's job to let everyone know the most amount of information that they need to know so that they can do the best job that they can do, basically. I think it's trying to keep everyone on the same page and within the same vision, and keeping everyone psychologically just happy and making sure that they feel challenged and making sure that their time is used well. And I think that that's what a director's job is on set, but I think really that's what their job is off set too, is to still create the same environment and let everyone feel like they're making their own story within the story that you're trying to make. So I moved to Northamptonshire. I moved to London from Northamptonshire when I finished sixth form college to try and learn about production and filmmaking after I found out that people actually got paid to do this job. And I did an apprenticeship at a production company for about 3 or 4 years, where I was just editing and filming and writing stuff every single day, all day. And it was documentary, or it was like online content. It was just a bunch of different things, and it just got me used to the skill and the muscle of doing it all of the time. And at the same time, I was writing, and I was trying to learn how to be a better writer and hopefully get something made. And I met people through doing that, but eventually nothing got made. And after I spent a few years being a cinematographer whilst I was doing all of this, I decided I could probably shoot and make my own film. So that's what I did. And that was definitely a learning curve. And I still think it's okay, but I've learned a lot about how I wanted to approach the art form. And I kept doing cinematography. And then I ended up producing and writing and directing a web series, which I just thought I'll do that because it will just force me to learn more and force me to make something that I can be proud of, I hope. And then I did that, and it turned out pretty well. And then I caught up with all the other things that I was trying to get made before then, and now I'm here, I guess. So I don't know. I just dabbled in a lot of different things and tried to learn as much as I could, and then use what I learned and put it into practice until I thought I had my own sort of voice in how I wanted to tell stories. I first got involved with Euras Films because, honestly, one of my producers for another project that I'm working on retweeted the job application link. And so I was like, oh, I really needed a writing job. Please don't pay me. And so I sent in my application, and then had the interview, and me and Sarah got on really, really well. And then I was making this film, The Smell of Cut Grass. And this film sort of came about because I was doing a pitch for something else for the ICA, and I had made like a 3-minute audio-visual script for an idea that came to me from a short story that I read. And initially there was a version of the film I wanted to do, which was like 10 or 15 minutes long, that I knew I couldn't do for this pitch, so I had to cut it down to something that was more abstract and image-based. And so when Sarah gave me the brief for these films she was making for the Pieces commission, I thought, oh, this would be the perfect place to adapt this story into the format I actually wanted to do it in. And so I started making it. Yeah, yeah. Why did I want to make this story now? I think, you know what? I'm going to be honest. As a writer and director, you just write as much as you can, and just hope that one of these projects gets made. But the definitely the like emotion and the feeling behind this project was about really adulthood, and not in the sense of time, but in the sense of emotions. So there's always the idea of like a coming of age story, and I wanted to make a coming of love story, and I feel like maybe that is closer to, you know, pre-teens and teenagers becoming adults, is that maybe we all hope that we can love more and love in all things that we do, and how that related to me and my sexuality, and how that relates to identity overall, you know. Except now we're not looking at it from the perspective of time, we're looking at it with the perspective of emotion. So I wanted to make a coming of love story, the smell of cut grass. What are the biggest challenges I've found in the film industry? I think time. It's just such a long time. Everything is so long, and you have to be patient, and that's okay, but you need to know that the patience is not necessarily going to be a focused kind of patience. It's not going to be to do with patience on this one project. It's going to be patience with everything that you do and how you do it and how much you can learn in that time. Experience is always something that's really hard to get because things take such a long time. It means that the experience you get is really a big chunk of your lifetime, and you need to be okay with that. And that just means that certain kinds of opportunities will take longer to get closer to you, but eventually they will, I'm sure. And also, I guess getting used to, getting used to growing and seeing your growth over a very long period of time, and trying to be fragile to it, knowing that it's there, and knowing that like this is what you did. It took you 9 months, 2 years, 1 year, 3 years to do, and knowing the growth that you made from the time you started that project to the end of that project, I think is important. So challenges, all of those things are a challenge for me. In terms of like actually doing the work, I don't find it like it's super difficult and taxing physically, but it's just filmmaking, it's fun. So, don't take it too seriously. I guess that's my answer. Some of the factors and trends that affect my role as a filmmaker, I think, again, it's to do with like history and time. There are certain things happening in the world, things that have happened, or maybe things that haven't happened that you want to make stories about, but maybe they're not always relevant to certain people at a certain time, which makes those stories relevant in a different way. And that affects my role because, it might be easier or harder to make that story, depending on, what the culture wants to see. And not only what they want to see, but how they want to see it, which is really, I think, the crux of what affects your job as a storyteller is what do people want to see and what is the format they want to see it in, and how can you tailor the stories that you make at a certain time to sort of work with that, so that you can get the experience that you need so that you can keep making films and making them better. And I feel like once you understand that that is your role anyway as an artist, I think you can sort of start to sniff out opportunities in a different way, and you can start to follow your gut and make stories that maybe you otherwise would have thought, maybe I wasn't going to make this now, but I'm making it now, and actually it's relevant in a way that I didn't think so. So it's sort of being open and flexible to what people want from you and expect from your job in a way that you're happy with, obviously. So don't like, you know, start changing yourself for people. Is this good advice? I don't know. Top 3 tips to being a writer-director. Okay, just read as much as you can. Take in information, stories, play games, just live life, and take in all the stories that you live, the people that you know, the things that you see, and just try and process them slowly. And I think you'll never run out of stories to tell, because you can always find stories in everything. As the second tip, I would say, is follow your guts. Like, if something doesn't feel right, or a person doesn't feel right, or a company doesn't feel right, or a story doesn't feel right, or an actor doesn't feel right, like, just don't do it. It's honestly just the easiest way to get around trouble and also doing your best work. Just go with what you think is natural and comfortable for you. And then number 3, like, I guess, take your time. Like, if something needs to be written over a very long period of time, then it needs to be written over a very long period of time. And if a film, for some reason, gets delayed, or you're not sure if it's done yet, like, don't try and rush it for a festival or anything. Just live with it and do it in the time that feels right for you. And don't succumb to expectations of, I don't know, time or people's schedules, or what people want you to do, or maybe what you expect from yourself. Those are my top tips. Barriers into getting into this industry, well, in the UK, definitely, there's loads of barriers, especially, you know, depending on where you come from. I saw something the other day, a statistic that said 4% of people in the UK have gone to private school, and 60% of the British Oscar winners are all people who went to private school. And that just shows you how hard it is to get into this industry. And that is at many different levels as well. It also depends what kind of job you want to do, whether you want to be an editor or a film director or a cinematographer. There's definitely certain kinds of people that the gatekeepers expect to do those jobs. And if you're not one of those people, it could mean more work and more challenges in order to prove people that, you know, you can do this sort of work. And I feel like that's generally it. It's just like having to prove what you can do to other people sort of changes depending on, you know, what you're trying to achieve. Definitely for me, like, it's been, you know, it's been okay so far, but I definitely feel all the doors, and I feel how limited the actual space is. And I can just say that from, you know, all the stories I've thought of making, the ones that I really, really care about the most are the ones, for some reason, that are the hardest to get made and seem the most obvious for someone to want to make. So I think it's all dependent upon the people that run the industry and the culture. And so just knowing that if you want to get there, you have to carve your own little tunnel to get there. And then you'll fill your tunnel with things like McDonald's, so people are going to go through your tunnel. And basically, yes, that's what I'm trying to say. Yes. The person I would want to work with the most in the film industry, actually, there's two people. I'm going to say two. Roger Deakins, because that man is truly a god, and I feel like I would learn so much from working with him. Even if it was like a 30-second film, I feel like I would learn, you know, so much from that kind of person. Everything that he does is just inspiring. And Mika Levi, who is a composer, and all of her work is just like outstanding. Like, I just feel like I would also, again, learn so much from working with them. But I feel like if I ever made some work with them, it would be far and away something better than I could have even imagined, which is like, when your job is to imagine things, that's like very crazy. So yeah, those are the two people.